spent 21 years here as president.
23.
23 years as president, 6 years before that on the board of directors.
And 6 years as chancellor.
And 6 years as chancellor. How would you describe or would you talk about the changes that you saw in those 30 plus years?
That's like saying who discovered the great island of Santo Domingo. When I first got here, there had been the riots, and the riot of, I believe, 80. And
the McDuffie riots.
McDuffie riots. And we were in serious trouble because at that time I had lost quite a few students. And I was very worried about, quote, quote, the budget. And one day I remember I got down on my knees by my bed and I said to the Lord, Lord, this is your institution. It's not mine, it's yours. So what you do with it is up to you. And whatever you want me to do, I will do. But I'm really worried. And from that moment on, I kept looking for how could I make this work. And I went to a dinner at the University of Miami, and I sat at the table with some very great people, including the former president. And he was a beautiful guy, Henry Stanford. And one of the people at the table, when Henry King got up to dance with someone, by the way, he said to me he had waltzed every woman, widow, across the floors, and that's how he turned U of M around. Well, when he got up to dance, a gentleman at the table said to me, Sister Jeanne, you remind me of a Henry King Stanford. Now, I bet him $1 million he wouldn't row across this little lake in his underwear. And I thought, oh, Lordy. And I thought, well, I can't do this. He said, but I'm going to bet you $1 million that you won't put on a white silk dress and sing for me, Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. And I thought, oh, we're getting closer. So I came back to Barry and talked to Derna Ford, who was the head of the music department, and asked her to give me a recording with the words. So every day I'd get up, I'd say my morning prayer, make my meditation, and practice that darn song. And about 2 months later, I got a call from a gentleman who asked me if I would like to have dinner on his yacht. Well, I said, yes, I would, but what's the entertainment? And first of all, who's coming? And the gentleman who had bet me was going to be one of the guests. I said, I'll bring the entertainment. So I got 2 young men from Barrie and 2 young women, and they practiced with me. We only had 2 days. And sure enough, we got to the yacht, and we had the students sneak down an old white dress and an old rotten boa, and they helped me in, and we had one of those little piano things, and we got on the yacht, and they brought it up, and I sang Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. He gave me $1 million. The guy that had the yacht said, you've got so much courage, I'm going to throw in another 500,000. That was $1.5 million, which covered our debt, and I knew we were alive. And so that's the beginning of us getting out of debt. And I never thought that the Lord would answer it in a prayer by singing Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. However, that was the beginning of the change.
Was there also something, did you dance or do a dance once to raise money for Barrie?
Well, that was years later. That was ballroom dance that someone said I couldn't do, but bet me I couldn't do. But there were a lot of things in between there. That was very important time for Barrie. And I had a very good friend, Theodore Hesburgh, the president of Notre Dame. I just loved him. And I called him and I asked him if he would come to Barrie and if he would help me decide what way I should go. So he came and he spent 3 days here, and on the 3rd day he came to meet with me. And I asked him, well, what do you think I should do? And he said, first thing you need to do is build a significant college, uh, build a massive place, a significant college presence. The interesting thing about that was at that time there was a very small male population, and there was not a place for big-bodied people to exercise. So it became clear to me that we needed a gym. And I can remember driving on North Miami and stopping in front of that big 40-acre field. There was nothing there, just weeds. And
Was that formerly the dog park?
no, that was 40 acres beyond. Altogether there were 80 acres, and 40 we owned, which was vacant. And I parked the car there, and I saw the gym as clearly as I could see today. And I saw a window at the very top, a circular window. And I went back to my office and called Tim Cerniak and said, Tim, we're going to build a gym. And we set about it, and we got that gym built. And interestingly enough, the architect had put a circular window, and I never told him about that. But that was part of the presence of God in the development of Barre. And then as needs arose, we needed to add buildings, and it was interesting. People were so good, and we had marvelous faculty and beautiful, beautiful students that the Lord would bring us. And it was a marvelous place to be. And it just seemed that we could attract the goodness of the world. And though sometimes the choices perhaps weren't the best choices that some of us made, but there was always within me a knowledge and a presence of the Lord. And I really felt that this mission here at Barre was alive, and that this Miami community needed who we are and who we were. And it became very vital to me that the wall around Barre not be a separation from the community, but that we would break down the walls and reach into this community that community yearned to have people care about it, to love it. And it wasn't long after that the courts gave me, I don't know, 300 or 400 Haitians, I can't remember how many, but it was very significant to me that Barre had opened its arms to the Cuban refugees in the late 60s, and we now were embracing once more not just the Cuban, but also the Haitian, and all those that come to seek freedom and liberty. And that was a great, great posture for us to embrace the world and to embrace Miami and all that it represents. And that was very important to me.
Someone suggested that Barre was never a Southern college. It was too international, even in its earliest days, that it was too international to be a so-called white Catholic girls' Southern college.
I don't know about that, and I don't really think it matters too much, because the mission was very clear. We were to do quality academics. We were to keep a religious dimension. We were to provide community service. But what was more important to me at the time was that everyone who entered our environment felt cared for and loved. And it's true, we might be international, or perhaps we're perceived that, but there was never a lack of Southern love and Southern hospitality.
What was the beginning? How could you contrast? Let's see if I can make a question simpler. Because you're credited largely with being the president that turned Barre into a modern university. It was one thing, and it became many, many other things because of you and your vision.
I didn't do it. The Lord did it, and the people that the Lord sent me. That team of people in the faculty, those deans, we had such marvelous, gifted educators, and it was their visions that I tried to facilitate. I saw my role as trying to get them the resources to do what they had to do to complete the mission. And somehow that worked. And I really felt Barry was mission driven, and I really felt that people understood that, and the students understood that. And that's how miracles happen, because the presence of love and the presence of awareness of who you are and what you must be to the world enhances the world and enhances the institution, as well as what it does for the individual, which is what's so important.
What do you think of Barry today? You've been
I
back
love
on
it.
campus.
I love it. When I drive in here, I feel good all over. If I wouldn't embarrass too many people, I would just walk around every day and just hug as many as I could hug. Reminds me of one gentleman died and left me a golf cart. And I was driving around, stopping to hug students, and this young man said to me, "You know, sister, the Pope has a Pope-mobile, and you've got a hug-mobile." And if anyone would say to me, what do you remember? I remember the embrace of students.
Well, your trademark signature, and we noticed it all the way over here, is to stop every single student, ask them their name. They're stunned, sort of immediately, who is this person talking to me? And then they smile.
I love them. I love them. Never had a bad student. Had students that didn't make good choices, perhaps, but wonderful, wonderful people. And just my 23 years as president were the most blessed time of my whole ministry. I've been a nun now 69 years, and it was those years here at Barry.
It's quite a testament. Do you think some, if not,
Can I get you to keep your arms down or come back? He comes into frame. Sorry to interrupt.
some of your influence of the academic must be because you're from the Adrian Dominicans. They placed such an emphasis on sisters or nuns, getting degrees. It's impressive, the ones that I've met with masters and PhDs and more.
That's right. I happen to have a PhD, which is rather a fun story. It was after Sputnik, and NASA, or NSF at the time, was trying to educate math and science teachers because the Russians were outrunning us. And so many of the universities were given grants to bring science teachers in to upgrade their learning. And at that time, most of the coaches were the science teachers. And what's fun about that is I asked Mother Genevieve if I could apply, and I signed it, of course, Sister John Anthony, because my name was Sister John Anthony. But the computer spit out Anthony John Sr., SR. So at the University of Arizona, when I showed up, there were 59 men and me. And every summer they had a Man of the Year award, and I'm happy to say that I was Man of the Year there for at the University of Arizona. So the trip to the PhD can be rather interesting. But it's true, Mother Gerald always valued education. She was one of the first prioresses, or we called them Mother Generals at the time, that influenced in the United States that the sisters, the nuns, had to be educated.
How important do you think the Adrian influence has been on Barry, but probably more significantly, there's going to be a decreasing influence, and it's quite possible it's going to be a lay president sooner, and less of an influence of all the sisters being here.
That's a very interesting topic for me. When Dominic died, he said, "Behold, my children, this heritage I give you." And for me, one of the important things for the future, and it is now, the future is now, that as we've diminished, the formation of the laity to carry on the values of St. Dominic becomes more and more eminent. And I see at Barry, and I'm excited about what's going to happen at Siena regarding the Heritage Center, which will spend its time in the formation of the laity so that the values of the Adrian Dominicans are not lost. In other words, preparing those that will walk when we no longer are there to walk with them. That is essential to the future. And I see it here in what is being done in the mission and in the core values work. I think that they're trying to transcend the physical presence to the spiritual presence and the values of the Adrian Dominicans.
There isn't a part of you says, but only if there were more women entering. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. No,
No,
you gotta put your
no,
password in it.
password.
Oh,
It's our only means of communication with the outer world.
Oh, okay.
Gonna hack here.
Surely there must be a part of you says, there should be more, if only more women were entering the sisterhood, if only we were still populating the ranks for Adrian.
I have no worry about that. This is in the hands of the Lord. For all centuries, there have been good men and good women who dedicate their life of service to the Lord. That will continue. Its form will be different. Their name might be different. But I have no doubt that this, in the hands of the Lord, this will continue. Be it in a different form, it is not for me to say, but I have no doubt that the presence of wonderful, wonderful women and wonderful, wonderful men will continue to carry on the values of the Adrian Dominicans.
When you first stepped on Barry's campus for the first time, what did it look like?
It was a cozy little place. It was kind of a storybook. It, when you opened a door, in many ways, it was walking into Alice in Wonderland, or perhaps looking for the yellow brick road. There were always surprises when I would come here. But it was not making the kind of impact that I felt an institution should do in the days that I was blessed to be here. And I guess for me, I saw it as a small seed waiting to be nourished and blossom and grow. And I see that what will continue when the Lord sends other presidents, that it will continue to grow and flourish and provide to the world the kind of mission that is needed in this kind of an institution for the sake of the world. It will grow and flourish with good people that understand the mission. It must continue to be mission driven and attract wonderful, wonderful students.
Is there a role for a Catholic university in today's society?
Yes, I think there is need for institutions that raise up people perhaps with another look at the values and the core values of our society, and so that when they enter in from this other background, we can flourish as a nation and as now a world that understands the presence of God is essential to what we will need to survive in time.
And the student body and the staff should not be Catholics themselves, because you have a very diverse student body now, many languages, many religions, a diverse staff, all at a Catholic university, and that's compatible.
I have no idea that the Lord is up there saying, oops, this one. I see the Lord up there, this one. They all belong. They belong. And they all, if they know the mission, if they understand the mission, and they believe in the values, you don't have to be of any special denomination to believe in the goodness of the Lord, whether what we call God. And the miracle then that perhaps will continue in campuses such as this will be the celebration of the liturgy, the sacramental sharing of those that do believe in those particular beliefs. But that presence in the world, when the Lord said, from the rising of the sun to the setting down thereof, that will be done on campuses such as this. It will be in the rising of the day, in the closure of the night, that believers come together of all faiths, of all colors, of all races, of all different countries, because the world needs that. The world needs and the world yearns. The world yearns for the presence of the Lord and people, a people that understand that they must give. They have to give of self to make the world the place that it was destined to be. And we all join within this institution to do that, to make the world a better place. That's all it is.
You've certainly given your life to Barry.
I gave my life to the Lord.
I'm sorry, first, the Lord first.
I
Yes.
gave my life to the Lord, and
What attracted you to the Adrian Dominican? What attracted you to become a nun?
well, it's a funny story. My mother died when I was 6 and left my father with 4 children. She died in childbirth, and he was a wonderful father. And when I was 13, I was on a streetcar in Grand River in Detroit, and there was a black woman. That's what we called women of color, black women in those days. And she had 4 children, and the streetcar jerked, and 2 of her children fell toward me. And I asked her if I could hold them, and she said I could. Not too much longer down the street, a man rang the bell to get off the streetcar, and he spit on me. And I didn't understand why. And that night I asked my dad, why did this man spit on me? My dad said, because of prejudice. I said, well, what's prejudice? And he said, it's caused by ignorance. I said, how do you get rid of ignorance? And he said, by education. And from that moment on, I knew I would spend my life trying to educate and fight prejudice and ignorance. And for 69 years as an Adrian Dominican, I never let that out of my sight. Fight prejudice, fight ignorance, educate the world, and that's what Barry is about. Barry fights prejudice. Barry fights ignorance. Barry fights for people to be educated, because that will change the world.
Has Barry?
And you may quote me.
And we will.
We're all nodding.
And we will, yes. And
Students, are you hearing this?
Oh. That's really wonderful. I'm actually rarely in my life at a loss for words. This will be hard to categorize, but if you had to pick 1 or 2 or 3 things you were proudest of your tenure here at Barry, what do you think back on? What comes immediately to your mind
People.
as I ask the question?
People.
What do you mean by that?
The awe-inspiring presence of goodness in the people. I never felt evil here. I never felt badness in the people here. My happiest memories go from a maintenance person to a vice president, to a great board member, to the humblest of students. Good people. That's my greatest blessing. That's my greatest memory. The buildings weren't that important. I always wanted to plant trees, and I've planted over maybe 3,000. My goal was to, by the year 2000, to plant 2,000, but I've surpassed that now. I wanted, I think one of the greatest challenge was the law school. No one wanted a nun to have a law school. They did everything to discourage me.
Was it the thought of this lack of separation in church? Was that
No, the ABA, it was the dumb nun syndrome. And I did everything they told me to do except quit. I would not quit. And that was a success, and Sister Peggy Albert's to be thanked for that. I wanted a woman's presence in the law that would raise up competent and compassionate lawyers. And that's what's happened there. Their hearts bleed for children and family. And that's part of the mission. And so that comes to mind.
I will ask Sister Peg this, but what was the reaction when you said, yes, I want a law school?
Well, they kind of just shook their head and thought the old girl's done it again. But my board was so supportive. I have to say that they went along with me in probably many cases where they just shook their head and weren't too sure. But that board always was wonderful. They were supportive, and Orlando people were welcoming. And I know that it wasn't the ordinary route, but I never thought that the ordinary route was the route to go. So the Lord surprised everybody, including me and the ABA.
All right, so certainly one mark, along with Sister Peg, of course, is the law school. What else? What else do you think signified your position here that you personally are so proud of that occurred during your tenure?
Excuse me.
Sure.
One of
Want
the things that's very important to me was the faculty understood that the mission to these students was to take a person where they were and bring them as far as they could go. And they caught, and the deans did this, they caught the concept of reaching out. And I prided myself in Dr. Lee and the faculty and the deans. They developed programs for those that needed upward bound a lot. And I would take the School of Podiatry, for example. In the School of Podiatry, I had read in the research that, it was darling kids, I can hardly stop not go and hug them. But anyway, I read in the research that in years to come there would be a need for podiatrists, urologists, and gynecologists as an elder population. And so I was aware that the women very often in a podiatry office were the assistants. And I took pride in the fact that we would create programs that would raise people up, give them a ladder up. We did that in anesthesiology, we did it in OT, we tried to do it in PT, but they wouldn't hear of an upward ladder. So I don't think I did too much by way of the academic content. That was faculty, that was deans, that was Dr. Lee. He freed me to be president, to go out and try to get things needed so they could fulfill the mission, and to provide the buildings, to provide the things the best we could, and to enter into the community in the name of the people here on this campus. When I went to the homeless, Barry went to the homeless. When I fought the hurricane, Barry went to the homeless and the displaced. When I took in the refugees, Barry took in the refugees. So that's how I remember my presidency, with great joy and with great love and with great gratitude. I love it.
There are many, including myself, that also remember you actively involved in the community. It wasn't just Barry. You sat on boards, you sat on commissions, you were very much a part of the South Florida community.
Yeah, I was the first woman on the Orange Bowl committee, which was just unheard of. The poor women, wives, they had to do the flowers and take care of the decorations and babysitting and so on. And finally the day came in '82, I believe, that perhaps they'd let a woman on, but there was great discussion. What would they do with the husbands? So they allowed me, because as a nun, they figured Jesus wouldn't care. And Dolores Eldridge was a widow. Her husband could not care. And so with great risk, I became a member of the Orange Bowl.